future, we are protecting thousands of high-quality, well-paid Canadian jobs.
La flotte globale de Honda émet aujourd'hui la plus faible quantité d'émissions de gaz à effet de serre parmi les fabricants de moteurs à combustion interne au Canada. C'est un point de fierté et une mesure de notre leadership. Enfin, nous avons récemment annoncé un plan visant à ce que les véhicules électriques à batterie et à l'hydrogène représentent 100% de nos ventes de véhicules en Amérique du Nord d'ici 2040. Et l'investissement de près d'1,4 milliard de dollars annoncé aujourd'hui est une étape importante vers cet objectif. Honda's overall fleet today emits the lowest amount of greenhouse gas emissions amongst internal combustion engine manufacturers in Canada. This is a point of pride and a measure of our leadership. In fact, we recently announced a plan to have battery electric and fuel cell vehicles represent 100% of our North American sales by 2040. And the nearly $1.4 billion investment announced today is an important step toward that goal. Indeed, the critical work of retooling our plant has already begun. HCM has been given the important designation of North American lead plant for the all-new 2023 CR-V hybrid, which will begin mass production in early fall. Our plan is to introduce hybrid powertrains to all our volume models as we progress towards our intensified electrification objectives. This is an important step in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions today and advancing Honda's global ambitions of realizing carbon neutrality for our entire business, including products and operations, by 2050. Finally, I want to recognize those who hold the key to our success, our associates. They build great cars and trucks, but perhaps more importantly, they have built HCM's reputation for manufacturing excellence globally, and that led to the Canadian investment announced here today. And in closing, I would like to once again thank Prime Minister Trudeau, Premier Ford, Minister Champagne, and Minister Fedeli for their ongoing support of Honda and the Canadian automotive industry. I will now invite Prime Minister Trudeau to the podium to give his remarks. Thank you.
Merci Jean-Marc pour cette introduction et tout ton travail. I also want to salute the extraordinary team of Honda Associates here who've been pushing excellence here in Alliston and throughout the supply chain for many, many years. It's great to be here in Alliston with Premier Ford for a big announcement that's going to make a big impact not just on people here but on the Canadian automotive industry. I'm also happy to be joined by Minister Champagne and Minister Fedeli, as well as MP Tony Van Bynen from nearby, along with other local leaders. We're announcing great news today that is going to secure thousands of good middle-class jobs across southern Ontario and build a strong, sustainable economy. La création de bons emplois est toujours une priorité pour notre gouvernement. On avait promis de rétablir l'emploi à son niveau d'avant la pandémie, et on travaille fort pour y arriver. In February, Canada added 337,000 jobs, and we've now recovered 112% of the jobs lost, with unemployment at its lowest rate since before the pandemic started. Canada is having one of the strongest economic recoveries on record, but we need to make sure that that recovery is sustainable and it creates good jobs and indeed good careers into the future. And that means understanding where the world is going and celebrating the fact that Honda sees that and sees Canada and Canadians as essential partners in moving forward that way. For decades, the automotive sector has helped Canada's economy grow and provided those good, high-paying jobs and careers. It also has helped build strong communities like right here in Alliston and around. Now, as we build a cleaner future, the automotive sector is a key partner in powering the way forward. Our auto workers have the expertise and skills to build low-emission vehicles, and we're here to support them. Today, we're pleased to partner with Honda and the Government of Ontario to upgrade Honda's Alliston production lines so that they can make hybrid electric models of their CR-V. The federal government is making a $131.6 million contribution as part of Honda Canada's nearly $1.4 billion investment. This will support thousands of jobs here at Honda in Alliston, but thousands more jobs in the local economy and across the Canadian supply chain. It means clean, affordable vehicles for Canadians, but also cleaner air for us all and for future generations in our communities. Aujourd'hui, on investit dans les travailleurs et dans nos communautés. Ensemble, on propulse l'industrie automobile canadienne vers l'avenir. We are continually demonstrating that we get how to position Canada and the Canadian economy and Canadians as ready to benefit from the cleaner economy, from the lower carbon future. That means, yes, better outcomes, cleaner air for our kids and our communities, but also better jobs and economic growth in ways that benefit us all. We're positioning Canada as a leader in low and zero-emission vehicle manufacturing, and in doing so, we're building that stronger, cleaner future for all. It is now my pleasure to turn it over to Premier Ford. Doug.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. It's great to be here at Honda, and I just want to thank all your associates. You do an incredible job. Had an opportunity to say hello to them. It's a privilege to be joined by Prime Minister and Minister Champagne, along with Minister Fedeli, along with a couple local MPPs, MPP Andrea Kanjan, our great Attorney General Doug Downey, and I want to give a shout out to Mayor Dolan from Innisfil as well. I want to thank Jean-Marc and all the exceptional people here at Honda Canada for having us and for contributing the contributions they make every single day here in Ontario. Friends, our government has a plan for growing a stronger economy, an economy that works for everyone. It's a plan that is training more people for jobs in skilled trades. And it's a plan that will attract investment to create good jobs in our auto and manufacturing sectors. It's a plan that's connecting resources and industries in Northern Ontario to the future of clean steel and electric vehicles. And it's a plan that's building roads, bridges, and highways, expanding subways and public transit, and constructing more homes, all for a growing Ontario. Our plan is to build Ontario. As we know, no province has a prouder history of auto manufacturing than Ontario, dating back over 100 years. While all Ontarians are rightly proud of our automotive history, we should be even more excited by what the future holds. And what's happening today is a major part of that future. Because today we're celebrating Honda Canada's $1.4 billion investment to retool its Alliston assembly plant and upgrade assembly lines. With matching support from Ontario and the federal government, which are investing $131.6 million each. These investments will ensure Honda Canada builds its next generation models like hybrids right here in Ontario to be sold right across North America. This means the cars of the future will be built right here by Ontario workers using Ontario resources. I want to thank Honda for their tremendous show of confidence in Ontario and the workers who make it all possible. This is truly incredible news for the entire province. Like I said earlier, Ontario is the automotive manufacturing powerhouse in North America. The sector employs almost 100,000 workers with even more spin-off jobs across the province. With our Driving Prosperity Plan, the number of goods, well-paying jobs will only grow. We made a promise to transform our auto sector by harnessing and unleashing homegrown innovation, building up Ontario-made supply chains, and leveraging our highly skilled workforce to fill the jobs of tomorrow. As we do, every region of Ontario will enjoy the economic benefits of these game-changing investments. Friends, our province has come so far, and we can't afford to go back to politics and no. Instead, your government is saying yes. Yes to investing in our communities, yes to good jobs for workers, and yes to another 100 years of being North American leaders in the auto manufacturing. Friends, let's say yes to a better and brighter future that the people of Ontario deserve. I want to thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to Minister Champagne.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you today because we are basically retooling for the future. So that's a very exciting moment for everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Premier Ford, for the kind introduction. Thank you, Prime Minister, to be here this morning, and everyone who has joined us here today for this important announcement. And that includes, obviously, my colleague, Vic Fedeli, with whom we say we make things happen here in Ontario when we work together. But I want to acknowledge also the Mayor, the Warden, the MP, Tony, which is with us, and a number of MPPs. Colleagues, let me first offer special greetings to the more than 4,000 workers of the Honda plant here today, because it's thanks to the expertise, their talent, and their know-how that we are gathered here this morning. And I want to say thank you, because we could not be celebrating this great investment this morning without your work, and I really want to applaud you for the work that you've been doing. It's really thanks to people that are here this morning that we can stand here and celebrate this great announcement. As the Prime Minister said and the Premier, this is great news for Alliston. It is indeed great news for Ontario, but it's also great news for the entire Canadian auto sector. And I also want to acknowledge publicly and say a big thank you to Jean-Marc. Jean-Marc, I want to acknowledge your leadership, and I can make a promise to you. I won't be calling you as often over the weekend as I've done in the last 6 months. So you can say that to your family, because today we have achieved a great milestones together, and it's thanks in great part to your leadership. Colleagues, everyone has seen that the auto manufacturing industry is a major part of our national economy, but also it's a critical sector for the jobs of today, but also of tomorrow. And the Prime Minister highlighted this very fact. And as consumer demand evolves, and we've seen it across the country, we can already see that the auto sector is undergoing a major transformation, a transformation towards cleaner and greener vehicles, and that's what you're going to see here in Alliston. And this is what you're going to see at this Honda plant, which is an award-winning plant within the Honda family. That's why we need to seize the moment. And this morning is really about seizing that moment. And that's why when I look around here today, I am convinced more than ever that Canada has the talent, and you've seen a number of people here on the line. The talent is here, but also that we have all the tools needed to be a world leader in manufacturing the cars of the future and be part of the green industrial transformation that we're seeing not only in Canada but around the world. And today, in my view, is another great example of what Canadians can accomplish when we work together, and certainly be a key part of that green industrial transformation. Ce que vous voyez ici ce matin, c'est exactement ce qu'il faut faire, c'est-à-dire poser des actions stratégiques immédiates avec une vision à long terme. Le Canada se positionne déjà comme chef de file dans la production de véhicules à zéro ou faible émission, mais aussi comme un producteur de batteries en Amérique du Nord. Et grâce à la main-d'œuvre spécialisée, comme des gens qu'on a vus ce matin, de la main-d'œuvre talentueuse, et en plus de la proximité des ressources et des marchés, je peux dire que le Canada sera et est déjà un des leaders de l'industrie automobile de demain. Et aujourd'hui, ce qu'on démontre, c'est que nous avons les moyens de nos ambitions. With the production of some of the cleanest cars on the market, Honda is a good example of how the environment and the economy can work hand in hand. And that you've heard from our government and the Prime Minister. This morning is a great example. If people are wondering how can the environment can work together with industrial investment. Well, this morning you're seeing a great example. And as a matter of fact, in addition to contributing to Canada's greenhouse gas reduction goal, Honda's hybrid vehicle production will help to secure thousands of well-paying jobs right there in the community of Alliston, right there in Ontario. And we've seen it, and by investing in the transition of the auto industry, we know that these jobs are not only here for today or for the short term, but they are here for decades to come. And that's what's really important, because this morning, retooling is for the future, securing jobs not only for today, but for decades to come. And that will ensure as well the long-term success of the auto industry here in Canada. And let me just say in closing, my friends, to everyone here at the Honda plant and across Ontario and Canada, let's be ambitious. Let's seize the moment, and let's take every opportunity like this morning to make sure that we can create here in Canada a strong and sustainable economy for the future of Canada. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Minister of Economic Development of Ontario, my dear friend, Vic Fedeli. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister Champagne, Premier Ford, Prime Minister Trudeau, and thank you to Jean-Marc and the whole team at Honda for hosting us here today. It's great to be back here in Alliston, home of Honda's assembly plant for more than 30 years. We're proud to be here with some of the thousands of incredible people who come to work here every single day. Since taking office, one of our government's top priorities has been to attract game-changing investments to the province and building up our auto sector to create the cars of the future. Today's exciting announcement is another proof point of our commitment to the future of Ontario's automotive sector, which we announced last year in Phase 2 of Driving Prosperity, our plan for the future. Ontario's automotive supply chain is ready to build the hybrid and battery electric vehicles of the future, and Driving Prosperity outlines our commitment to help make that happen. The retooling here of the Alliston plant is another sign of the hybrid and EV revolution taking hold in Ontario. Since taking office, we've taken an all-of-Ontario approach to making game-changing investments that support our auto sector and communities with deep roots in manufacturing. And this includes last month's once-in-a-generation $500 million investment towards Dofasco's green steel production in Hamilton, as well as many important investments across the province's auto supply chain through our $100 million regional development programs. And now we can proudly add Honda Canada's retooling of its Alliston plant to that growing list of future-forward investments in our auto sector and its workers. This nearly $1.4 billion project, with the support of more than $131 million from the province of Ontario and the federal government, will manufacture the company's next-generation models, including hybrid versions built in Ontario and sold across North America. It's a major turning point for Honda and for Ontario, and our government is proud to play a leading role. From day one, our government's plan has been to unleash Ontario, our economic potential, to attract investment by making the province an attractive place to do business once again. Through our strong Open for Business mandate, we have taken decisive steps to lower taxes, reduce electricity costs, and cut red tape. And this has reduced the cost of doing business in Ontario by nearly $7 billion a year, each and every year. Honda's investment demonstrates that our plan is working and helps secure Ontario as the engine of Canada's economy as we reposition our auto sector and broader supply chains in the global shift to hybrid, EV, and EV battery production. We're grateful to the whole team here at Honda for this investment you're making in the economy of the future, and to the hardworking people across Ontario's automotive sector. Thank you very much, and we'll ask the Prime Minister to return to the podium.
Bon après-midi. Thank you, Prime Minister. We have 20 minutes for questions. Nous avons 20 minutes pour des questions with a limit of one question, one follow-up per reporter. If you can identify your outlet and your name before you ask your question, we will go to the first question.
Good morning, Megan Fitzpatrick from CBC News. The first question is for you, Prime Minister. And if you could answer in French and English, please. A couple questions on Ukraine. Yesterday, President Zelensky made a very personal appeal for Canada to support him and his country, not just with words, but with actions. We know he wants a no-fly zone. We know so far your government has signaled Canada won't do that. What do you think the consequences of not doing a no-fly zone would be? Are you prepared to live with those consequences? If I could throw a second part in there, we've seen that he may be suggesting, President Zelensky, that he is willing to sacrifice NATO membership in order to put an end to this war. He's apparently expressed that to EU leaders. Have you heard that from President Zelensky? Given that Canada sponsored Ukraine's membership, what would you think of that, if indeed that's true?
First of all, we are all continually horrified by the terrible images we're seeing coming out of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin's illegal and unjust war must stop. It is a terrible thing for the people of Ukraine. It's also a terrible thing for the world. This attack on democracies, this attack on innocence, this attack on the very foundation and pillars that make us successful and prosperous and peaceful around the world. So we will continue to stand up and support Ukraine with humanitarian support, with refugee support, but also with equipment, military equipment and lethal equipment as well. This is something that we've continually done because the Ukrainians are demonstrating an ability to push back, defend their land, defend their country, defend their culture, defend their fellow citizens against this illegal Russian invasion. We've continually said we're ready to do more, and we're working every day to support more, but there are, as you point out, large conversations going on around NATO, and I will be going next week to the NATO's meeting in Brussels to further talk about the decisions we take as an alliance as to how to best support Ukraine and protect the lives of people in Ukraine and around the world. Nous voyons à tous les soirs les images horrifiques sortant de l'Ukraine. Cette guerre illégale et illégitime de Vladimir Poutine est inacceptable et en tant qu'alliés à l'OTAN, nous allons continuer d'être là pour appuyer nos amis en Ukraine avec de l'équipement. Le Canada, depuis le début, a été là avec de l'équipement militaire, incluant des armes et aussi de l'aide humanitaire et pour les réfugiés. Et quand on sera à la rencontre de l'OTAN la semaine prochaine, on va continuer ces conversations sur la meilleure façon que le Canada peut aider en Ukraine.
Second question for Mr. Ford, please. Mr. Ford, when you came into office, you took a number of steps that didn't exactly encourage the adoption of electric vehicles, like revoking the rebate that had been offered to Ontarians to purchase the vehicles. And at the time, you said you didn't want to subsidize millionaires buying Teslas. But it's not just Teslas anymore. It's Honda. It's other manufacturers that are getting into the market. So if you want to continue to support jobs at plants like this, you presumably would want to create more demand for electric vehicles in Ontario. So what are you going to do that? Will you bring the rebate back? If not, why not? And if you won't, what will you do instead to create some incentives, create demands for electric vehicles? And Mr. Trudeau, do you think Ontario should bring the rebate back?
Well, first of all, thanks for the question. And just to set the record straight, since we've been in office, electric vehicles have tripled in sales. So I guess that was a good decision. But we're putting money back into electric vehicles. We're putting money back into our minerals. And we're able to open up facilities in the north to actually manufacture the batteries, the critical minerals. We'll be investing tens and hundreds of millions of dollars up there to make sure we have a feasible plan that those batteries can be put into the cars. We're investing billions of dollars into the auto sector that the prior government didn't do. Matter of fact, the auto sectors were leaving. Now we have 5 strong auto companies right here in Ontario producing vehicles of the future. We're creating jobs of the future. We invested $500 million down at the FASCO, electric arc furnaces. They get rid of the emissions. So I think we're doing a great job on the environment and emissions.
So I'm going to take that as a no on the rebate. Mr. Trudeau, if you could respond, and then
We're going to continue to make sure that automakers invest in the jobs of the future and in the cars of the future across the country. We're happy to work with Ontario on this great announcement today.
Next question.
Bonjour, Camille Fayreisen pour Radio-Canada. J'ai une question pour vous, Monsieur Trudeau. Les ministres de la Défense, un peu partout dans le monde, discutent actuellement de donner un statut éventuellement neutre à l'Ukraine, comme c'est le cas par exemple en Suède, en Suisse. Êtes-vous en faveur de ça et pourquoi?
C'est des conversations, évidemment, qui sont en train de se faire en Europe. J'en ai eu dans la dernière semaine où j'ai eu des rencontres avec beaucoup de différents leaders. Mais l'important de se souvenir, c'est qu'on ne peut pas décider de l'Ukraine et de l'avenir de l'Ukraine sans l'Ukraine. Et c'est les Ukrainiens eux-mêmes qui sont en train de se battre, de faire face à la Russie, à cette invasion illégale. Et ce doit être les Ukrainiens qui décident de leur avenir, de ce qu'ils sont prêts à négocier pour avoir la paix. On peut tous avoir des opinions sur les pistes possibles, mais ce doit être le président Zelensky et les Ukrainiens eux-mêmes qui décident qu'est-ce qu'ils veulent faire pour l'avenir. S'ils veulent continuer à se battre, on va être là pour les défendre.
Merci. Et j'ai une deuxième question concernant les services de garde. Le gouvernement de l'Ontario demande plus d'argent de la part d'Ottawa pour arriver à une entente sur les services de garde. Jusqu'où êtes-vous prêt à aller pour qu'on atteigne cette entente? J'aimerais aussi avoir la réponse en anglais, s'il vous plaît.
On sait très bien qu'avec les hausses du coût de la vie, les familles en arrachent un peu partout à travers le pays. C'est pour ça que les mesures que les gouvernements peuvent mettre de l'avant pour aider les familles sont si importantes. Et notre initiative sur les garderies à 10 $ est en train déjà de faire une grosse différence pour les familles à travers le pays. Et on a très hâte de pouvoir annoncer quelque chose avec l'Ontario. Je peux vous souligner que le travail avance très bien en termes des discussions sur les garderies. I can say that we know that families are pressured right now with rising costs of living. The global inflation crisis caused first by coming out of this pandemic and second by this illegal war that Vladimir Putin has launched in Ukraine is putting pressure on families. That's why governments need to continually step up to support hardworking families with things that are going to reduce their costs. And that's why we are so excited about the $10 a day child care announcements we've made right across the country, where we're seeing child care costs reduced already for many, many families across the country. And I can tell you that the Government of Canada and the Government of Ontario are working very hard and very well together. And we hope to have announcements to make soon.
Next question.
Hi, Matthew Bingley from Global News. Prime Minister and Premier Ford, if you could both respond to this. To follow up on that childcare question, you talk about the importance of getting a deal done. March 31st, the deadline is rapidly approaching to make a deal. You're both in the same room. What is it going to take for you to find common ground on this and make a deal?
Well, the common ground that we've always shared is a desire to see costs lowered for hardworking families across Ontario and indeed across the country, and do the things that are going to help them get ahead. And we know childcare, particularly coming out of this pandemic, where the advocates, like the federal Liberal government for a long time for childcare, were joined by business leaders and advocates across the country who understood in the pandemic just how important quality early learning in childcare is, not just for families, not just for kids to have the right start, not just for moms to be able to rejoin the workforce, but also for our economy to grow. So from that place of alignment and agreement, we're working very hard, and like I said, we hope to have things to announce very soon. Doug?
Well, thank you for that question, and we're very, very close. As the Prime Minister said, our teams are working together on a daily basis, and we'll have a announcement very, very soon. But it's so important to make sure that we have affordable childcare for all families right across Ontario. We've created an environment to create 338,000 positions available across the province, and we want that opportunity for families to be able to go out there, have a great paying job, a job of the future right here at Honda or other locations. That's what our investments we're going to focus on.
Premier, if I could follow up with you, Megan asked you about the incentives for EVs and getting people to drive them. You talked about how many more people are actually buying them.
Yes.
3 times, I think you said. There is still the demand to actually charge these vehicles, and critics have really pointed out that there just isn't enough infrastructure out there to make sure that vehicles like the ones that will be built here are actually able to run at a longer distance. When is your government going to commit to expanding that infrastructure? Well,
I'm glad you answered. You asked me that question. We're actually setting a record in Canada. We're putting $148 billion into infrastructure. We're building new roads. We're building new bridges. We're building the 413. The Bradford bypass would be instrumental to the people that work here in Alliston. We're actually leaving this facility to talk about renovating Stevenson Memorial Hospital just down the street. We're building new schools. So we're a government that is building. We're also putting chargers in every single en route right across the province. And as the market demands it, they'll continue putting the chargers throughout Ontario. But we're all about building the economy, also building broadband, which is absolutely critical across this province. We're putting $4.2 billion towards broadband again. So we're a government that believes in infrastructure and will continue to be building.
Next question.
Hi, Prime Minister. Alliston Jones with the Canadian Press. I wanted to follow up on Megan's first question about Ukraine. If a no-fly zone is off the table, will Canada meet Zelensky's other demands, such as sending more weapons to Ukraine and sanctioning everyone who supports the Putin regime?
Every single week, we've announced more specialized equipment, more lethal aid going to Ukraine. We stepped up among the early partners with shipments of arms to Ukraine. But even before that, we've been part of leading Operation Unifier, which has trained up 33,000 Ukrainian military personnel over the past number of years that has contributed to their ability to stand so strong against the Russian invaders right now. So Canada has been a friend. We've continued to deliver on equipment, including highly specialized equipment for drones. We're going to continue to be there for President Zelensky and for Ukrainians, and we're going to continue to bring the voice of Ukraine and advocacy for more support for Ukraine to that NATO meeting next week.
And as well, will Canada send chartered flights to those Ukrainians who apply to come to Canada through the expedited temporary visa process?
As we know, there is a huge need for humanitarian support, which includes refugee support. When I was in Warsaw last week, I met with wives and children who were very worried about their husbands left behind. And I've heard from a lot of Ukrainians that they don't want to go too far from Ukraine right now. That's why many of them are staying in Poland. But we have put in place measures for anyone who wants to come to Canada, and not automatically, permanently. If they only want to come until the war is over, we've given a 2-year special processing that will not just be a tourist visa, but allow them to live and work and find some stability for as long as the war could take. We are going to be opening applications for that 2-week processing extremely soon, and we will respond to the demand. If there is sufficient demand that requires us to do more, like sending airlift, we will look at that. We're always ready to do more. We will do whatever we can to do as much as we can to get as many Ukrainians to Canada as quickly as possible, because Canadians are eager to help to support, to do their part, to welcome families fleeing violence across the country, and we will make sure that they're able to do that.
Hi, Prime Minister. Heather Butts with CTV News. I just want to ask you another follow-up on Ukraine in terms of specifics and specific aid here. Today, U.S. President Joe Biden is set to announce a fresh round of military aid for Ukraine, valued at $1 billion. But so far, Canada has only given around $33 million worth of military aid to Ukraine. President Zelensky was clear yesterday in the House that he needs more weapons. So why hasn't Canada given more military aid to Ukraine, such as our allies?
We've actually stepped up, like I said, on highly specialized equipment. That was the top ask during one of my conversations with President Zelensky a couple of weeks ago for the drones that they're using. We're going to continue to get as much equipment as we have that they can use as possible. The challenging supply lines, getting things into Ukraine, are an issue that all of NATO is facing right now. But we're going to continue to be there with as much help as we can possibly give, because Ukrainians are not just fighting heroically to protect Ukraine. They're also standing up for the values that we all fight and respect and underpin our societies and our democracies.
Thank you. If you could maybe comment on the difference, quite a difference, between the U.S. aid and ours. But my follow-up also is the core ask of President Zelensky's speech yesterday was for Canada and Western allies to enforce a no-fly zone over Ukraine. You've said before, we know that's something Canada is not interested in doing, but was there anything that Mr. Zelensky said yesterday in his powerful speech that made you reconsider that position?
This is an extraordinarily difficult issue, because we see the impact of the bombs and the cruise missiles falling on hospitals, on schools, on Ukrainian civilians. It is heartbreaking to see these images every day of Vladimir Putin's violence against innocents across Ukraine. As a NATO alliance, we continue to look at ways we can help support and protect Ukrainians and continue to prevent this war from expanding and escalating elsewhere. These are heartbreaking decisions and choices that we have to make, and I can assure you that NATO is constantly talking about what more we can do, what solutions we can bring. We'll highlight, however, that in the early days of the conflict, the Ukrainians were far more successful than the Russians expected at shooting down Russian aircraft. And we've seen an emphasis away from aircraft flying into Ukrainian space, and more bombs and cruise missiles launched from a distance, which is a challenge in terms of closing the skies as well.
We'll take the last question.